Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Whether you're here for self-help, personal growth, or business inspiration, there's something for everyone. Today, we're diving into James Surowiecki's The Wisdom of Crowds, a fascinating exploration of how collective intelligence often outperforms individual experts, shaping business, economies, societies, and nations. Surowiecki kicks off with a compelling anecdote. In 1906, British scientist Francis Galton visited a country fair and observed a weight-judging competition. 800 people, a mix of experts and non-experts, guessed the weight of an ox. Galton, skeptical of the average person's intelligence, averaged the guesses and found it to be astonishingly accurate, almost perfect. This, he realized, suggested a surprising truth about collective judgment. This anecdote introduces the core idea of the book. Under the right conditions, groups can be remarkably intelligent, often surpassing even the smartest individuals within them. This wisdom of crowds isn't about exceptional individuals dominating a group. It's about the aggregation of diverse independent opinions leading to a collectively wise decision. Surowiecki explores several examples of collective intelligence. He points to the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where the studio audience consistently outperformed expert phone-a-friends. He cites numerous studies from the mid-20th century involving tasks like estimating room temperature, ranking items by weight, or counting jelly beans in a jar. In these studies, the averaged group guess consistently surpassed the vast majority of individual guesses. Even in complex scenarios like computer simulations navigating a maze, the collective solution, based on the majority decision at each point, outperformed the average individual and even matched the best individual solution. The book then moves to real-world examples, starting with the stock market's reaction to the Challenger disaster. Within minutes of the explosion, investors pinpointed Morton Thiokol as the responsible party, a judgment later confirmed by the official investigation. Surowiecki argues the market acted as a weighing machine, aggregating the diverse information held by traders. Another real-world example is sports betting, specifically the creation of point spreads in Las Vegas. The point spread, adjusted based on better behavior, represents a collective judgment of a game's likely outcome. Studies show it's difficult for individuals to consistently beat the spread, suggesting the collective wisdom of the betting market is remarkably accurate. This holds true across various sports, particularly in large liquid markets like horse racing, where odds accurately predict not only the winner, but also the overall order of finish and probability of winning. Moving beyond traditional markets, Surowiecki looks at prediction markets like the Iowa electronic markets, where people trade futures contracts based on election outcomes. Despite its small size and non-representative demographics, the IEM consistently outperforms traditional polls. Similar success is seen in the Hollywood Stock Exchange, where participants bet on box office returns and Oscar winners, often outperforming expert predictions. These markets, even when using play money, effectively harness the collective wisdom of diverse independent participants. Surowiecki also explores how Google's search engine uses the PageRank algorithm to tap into the collective wisdom of the web. PageRank interprets links from one page to another as votes, with the importance of a page determined by the number and importance of the pages linking to it. This allows Google to quickly identify the most relevant pages for any search, demonstrating the power of decentralized collective judgment. This collective intelligence hinges on 4 key conditions: diversity of opinion, independence, decentralization, and aggregation. Diversity ensures access to a wide range of information and perspectives. Independence prevents correlated errors and encourages the introduction of new information. Decentralization allows individuals to specialize and draw on local knowledge. And aggregation provides a mechanism for turning private judgments into a collective decision. The early days of the U.S. auto industry provide a compelling example of the interplay of diversity and market forces. Initially, hundreds of companies experimented with different designs and technologies, from steam-powered to electric cars. Over time, the market winnowed out the less successful approaches, leading to the dominance of gasoline-powered cars and mass production. This seemingly wasteful process, mirroring the foraging behavior of a bee colony, allows for the exploration of a wide range of possibilities before settling on the most successful solutions. Beyond exploring alternatives, diversity also enhances decision-making within groups. Studies by Scott Page show that diverse groups, even with less intelligent members, often outperform groups composed solely of high IQ individuals. This is because diversity introduces different perspectives and skills, making it harder for the group to get stuck in a rut. It weakens the destructive forces of groupthink, where homogeneous groups, insulated from outside opinions, become overly confident in their own judgment. The Bay of Pigs invasion serves as a cautionary example of groupthink's dangers, where the Kennedy administration's homogeneous decision-making group, insulated from dissenting voices, made a series of disastrously flawed judgments. Diversity also mitigates the effects of social pressure and conformity, allowing individuals to express their true opinions more freely. Surowiecki also emphasizes the importance of independence in decision-making. While humans naturally learn from and influence each other, excessive influence can lead to correlated errors and hinder the introduction of new information. He cites Milgram's street corner experiment, where passers-by were more likely to look up at an empty sky if others were doing so, demonstrating the power of social proof. However, relying too heavily on social proof can lead to poor decisions, as exemplified by Mike Martz's overly cautious fourth down strategy in Super Bowl XXX. Martz's decisions, while conforming to conventional wisdom, were statistically suboptimal, costing his team valuable points and possibly the game. This highlights how imitation and social proof, magnified in insular communities like professional football, can stifle innovation and lead to collectively poor judgments. This tendency towards imitation can also lead to information cascades, where individuals disregard their private information and follow the actions of others, even when their own knowledge suggests a different course of action. The 19th century plank road fever, where the initial success of plank roads led to widespread adoption despite their short lifespan, demonstrates how cascades can lead to collectively bad decisions. However, information cascades aren't always negative. William Sellers' successful campaign to standardize the screw in the 1860s shows how cascades can spread beneficial innovations. The key difference is that the screw standardization was beneficial because the adopted standard was objectively superior. While cascades can be efficient in disseminating information, they can also hinder the wisdom of crowds if they lead to a convergence of opinions and a suppression of diverse perspectives. Overconfidence, paradoxically, can be beneficial in disrupting negative cascades, as overconfident individuals are more likely to rely on their own judgment and challenge the prevailing consensus. Surowiecki highlights how cooperation is essential for societies and organizations. He discusses strong reciprocity, the willingness to punish bad behavior and reward good behavior even without personal material benefit. This is exemplified by the public outrage over Richard Grasso's excessive compensation as head of the New York Stock Exchange, where people demanded his removal despite no personal financial gain. This impulse towards fairness, also observed in capuchin monkeys, transcends narrow self-interest and serves the common good. Cooperation, often seemingly irrational from a purely self-interested perspective, is essential for solving collective action problems, such as paying taxes, curbing pollution, or tipping. While repeated interactions can foster cooperation through the shadow of the future, people also cooperate with strangers, suggesting a deeper, more pro-social motivation. The evolution of capitalism, with its increasing emphasis on trust and transparency, has ironically fostered cooperation by demonstrating the long-term benefits of fair dealing. The Quakers, known for their honesty and rigorous business practices, exemplify how trust can lead to economic success. Capitalism, while often associated with greed, has in fact fostered institutions and norms that promote trust and cooperation. Surowiecki acknowledges that trust can be exploited, as seen in the corporate scandals of the late 1990s. However, market mechanisms, regulations, and a renewed emphasis on long-term value creation can mitigate corruption. He discusses tax evasion as a collective action problem, where individuals are tempted to free ride on the public goods funded by taxes. However, strong reciprocity and a belief in a fair and effective tax system encourage voluntary tax compliance. In fact, studies show that market integration is positively correlated with pro-social behavior, suggesting that markets can enhance, rather than erode, cooperation. Traffic congestion exemplifies a coordination problem, where individual drivers' pursuit of self-interest leads to collectively suboptimal outcomes. Congestion pricing, as implemented in London and Singapore, attempts to internalize the costs imposed by drivers on others, encouraging more efficient use of road space. However, congestion pricing faces political resistance, highlighting the difficulty of implementing collectively beneficial solutions that appear to penalize individuals. Beyond simple congestion, traffic flow is a complex system easily disrupted by minor bottlenecks or variations in driver behavior. Technological solutions, such as automated highways or driver assistance systems, could potentially improve traffic flow, but they also raise concerns about individual autonomy and control. Science provides a different model of collective problem solving, emphasizing collaboration and the free exchange of information. The rapid identification of the SARS virus, through a global collaboration of laboratories, demonstrates the power of decentralized cooperative research. Science, while driven by individual ambition and the pursuit of recognition, relies on the sharing of information and the collective validation of new discoveries. However, the Matthew effect, where well-known scientists receive disproportionate credit, can hinder the recognition of valuable contributions from lesser-known researchers. The growing commercialization of science also raises concerns about the tension between open access to information and the protection of intellectual property. Small groups, such as committees, juries, and teams, play a crucial role in decision-making, but they also face unique challenges. The Columbia disaster highlights the dangers of groupthink, confirmation bias, and a lack of diversity in small groups. The mission management team at NASA, responsible for evaluating the risks posed by a foam strike during Columbia's launch, made a series of flawed judgments, ultimately leading to the shuttle's destruction. The MMT's failure stemmed from a pre-existing bias against the possibility of serious damage, a reluctance to seek additional information, and a lack of dissenting voices. This highlights the importance of fostering cognitive diversity, encouraging dissent, and avoiding premature conclusions in small groups. However, despite their potential flaws, small groups, when properly structured, can make better decisions than individuals, as demonstrated by experiments where groups outperformed even their smartest members in tasks like predicting economic changes or setting interest rates. Corporate structure and management also reflect the challenges of collective decision-making. Zara, a Spanish clothing retailer, exemplifies a successful approach to coordination, using a highly flexible, decentralized production system to respond quickly to changing consumer demand. Zara's success is built on a combination of speed, design, and affordability. The company integrates design, production, and distribution in a tightly coordinated system, allowing it to introduce new designs much faster than its competitors. This ability to coordinate, though, also highlights the central question of why corporations exist at all. Ronald Coase argued that companies emerged to reduce transaction costs, the costs associated with negotiating and enforcing contracts in the marketplace. Companies bring activities in-house when it's cheaper and easier than outsourcing them, or when those activities are so crucial to the company's success that it's unwilling to entrust them to others. Different models of corporate organization are explored through the lens of Hollywood gangster films. The Godfather exemplifies a traditional hierarchical corporation, with a powerful CEO making quick decisions but facing challenges in information flow and internal control. Heat portrays a small, tight-knit gang, highlighting the benefits of trust and specialization in small groups, but also their vulnerability to individual mistakes. Films like The Asphalt Jungle and Reservoir Dogs depict ad hoc teams assembled for a single job, showcasing the potential for diverse skills, but also the difficulties of coordination and trust in temporary organizations. Zara's success stems from blending elements of these models, combining centralized control with decentralized execution and flexible responses to market demands. Examining the evolution of the modern corporation, Surowiecki discusses the shift from vertically integrated hierarchical structures to more decentralized, flexible organizations. The bureaucratic sclerosis of the mid-20th century, where layers of management stifled innovation and information flow, contributed to the decline of American competitiveness in the 1970s. While companies now emphasize decentralization and employee empowerment, genuine bottom-up decision-making remains rare. He argues that companies can improve decision-making by distributing real decision-making power more widely, utilizing tools like internal prediction markets to harness the collective wisdom of their employees. The over-reliance on CEOs as corporate saviors, often based on inflated reputations and past successes, hinders the development of more effective collective leadership models. Markets, while often seen as paragons of rationality, are also susceptible to irrationality and collective errors. The hostility towards short sellers who bet against rising stock prices reflects a persistent bias against negative forecasts, even though short sellers play a valuable role in correcting market mispricings. Behavioral economics highlights various ways in which investors deviate from perfect rationality, such as overconfidence, herding, and overreaction to news. However, these individual irrationalities don't necessarily negate the market's overall efficiency, as diverse biases can cancel each other out. Bubbles and crashes, though, represent instances where the market's collective wisdom breaks down, as dependent decision-making and speculative frenzy drive prices far from fundamental values. The bowling bubble of the 1950s, where investors poured billions into an overhyped industry, exemplifies how collective enthusiasm can lead to misallocation of capital. Keynes's beauty contest analogy, where investors try to predict what other investors will think, captures the self-reflexive nature of market judgments. The rise of financial news, like CNBC, while providing more information, can also exacerbate market volatility and herding by amplifying the focus on short-term price movements and the opinions of other investors. Finally, Surowiecki discusses the role of collective wisdom in democracy. While public choice theory portrays voters as driven by narrow self-interest, evidence suggests that voters often prioritize the common good and are influenced by broader economic conditions rather than personal circumstances. Deliberative democracy, as exemplified by James Fishkin's deliberative polls, suggests that ordinary citizens, given sufficient information and opportunities for discussion, are capable of making informed political judgments. While democracy may not always reveal an objective public interest, it provides a mechanism for addressing the fundamental problems of cooperation and coordination, allowing diverse individuals to find ways to live together and work towards mutual benefit. So, the key takeaways and heuristics from The Wisdom of Crowds are: diversity of opinion is essential. Don't just seek out smart people, seek out people who think differently. Independence matters. Encourage independent thought and avoid excessive influence or conformity. Decentralization can be powerful. Allow individuals to specialize and draw on local knowledge. Aggregation is key. Find mechanisms for turning private judgments into collective decisions. Beware of cascades. While imitation can spread good ideas, it can also lead to collective errors. Foster cooperation. Encourage reciprocity and trust, even when it seems individually irrational. Markets can be wise, but they're not perfect. Be mindful of bubbles, crashes, and the limits of individual rationality. Democracy, while flawed, offers a valuable mechanism for cooperation and coordination. Engage in informed debate and value diverse perspectives. Thanks for watching. Have you read it? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.